What's up everyone, it's Black Hammer here, back with another deck building video. Today's going to be a little bit different. The past few videos we've been focusing on runner decks. Today we're going to be focusing on a new corp deck that has been brought to my attention. A buddy of mine, Sly Squid, over at A&R Black Hats. For those of you who don't know the A&R Black Hats, I'll have a link posted in the description of this video. He came to me with a challenge not long ago, I believe it was Saturday, so a couple days ago, asking me to make a Nisei division corp deck, trying to keep it as thematic as possible with the books, but also at the same time keeping it successful, which isn't too challenging, I don't think, but it's a deck or an ID that isn't played too much. I did my best to keep it, I guess, thematic, but in terms of making it a tournament competitive deck, there are a couple parts where I had to kind of skimp out and go with what was best. So we're gonna jump into that deck today, and as always, if you guys have any comments, feedback, whatever have you, feel free to post it in the comments. One other thing is that this deck, I'm going to be playing it on Octagon a bit. I played it a couple times and it's done very well. It's actually undefeated, surprisingly. But I'm going to be playing it as well in casual matches as I usually do, and hopefully in a tournament prior to regionals, so you can look forward to that as well. So we're going to jump straight into it as we usually do. So like I said, we're playing the Jin Teki Nisei division. Reading is hard because I can't find it right now. Where the heck is it? Why don't I see it here? Oh, sorry, it's right here. I'm just not used to the image. So there it is. Nisei division. Whenever you and the runner reveal secretly spent credits, you gain a credit. Alright, so this is a 49 card deck using all 15 influence and 20 agenda points. So we'll start off with the agendas. At the moment, this is how I have it set up. So we have 2 Gia hands. This is a deck that requires a lot of money to function. Like I said, it's a very fast deck. It's a rush deck, but having Gia hands is always a good option because you are able to double click for that 3 credits. It keeps you in the game and it keeps you afloat, and it helps you hit that threshold to get back into hedge fund range. So it's a very good agenda to have. It kind of sucks scoring it early because it is only 1 point, and when you're trying to rush, obviously scoring 1 point agendas isn't always the best. However, I think that this is a good option for the deck. Next is NAPD contracts, a card that everyone that plays Netrunner should know at this point. It's a 4 cost, it's a 4 cost agenda for 2 points. When the runner attempts to steal it, they have to pay 4 credits for it. It's a very annoying card for the runner, and it can sometimes be annoying as well for the corp because you do have to shell out that extra buck to score it, and again, it's still only 2 points, and the ability doesn't really benefit you too much from scoring it. It's all about being a deterrent for the runner. Next, obviously, we have to have the Nisei Mark II agendas, so 3 copies of that. This is probably one of the more important cards in the deck. You want to get this scored out as soon as possible. For those who don't know, it's a 4 cost 2 point agenda. Place 1 agenda counter on Nisei Mark II when you score it, and you use the hosted agenda counter to end the run. So obviously that has a lot of utility because you are able to get a free end the run that you can use pretty much whenever you want, as long as the run is still taking place. So say you had a triple stacked ice or a triple stacked server, you wait till the runner goes through, spends all their money breaking everything, and they're asking you to access, and then you say, well, sorry, I'm going to use my Nisei counter and end this run, and you need to pay that all over again. So having one of these is great. Scoring out 2 of them is unbelievable, especially when you start mixing it with things like the Caprice Nisei upgrade, which we will see later. So that's 14 points, and the next 6 points are just 2 copies of the Future Perfect. The Future Perfect is another extremely annoying Jin Teki card. When the runner accesses the future perfect, you and the runner secretly spend 0, 1, or 2 credits. Reveal spent credits. If you and the runner spent a different number of credits, prevent the future perfect from being stolen. Ignore this ability if the runner accesses the future perfect while it is installed. So if they hit it from HQ, if they hit it from R&D, if they hit it from archives, you guys are forced to play the side game, and obviously that triggers the Nisei division ability. It's important to note that the Nisei ability specifically says that you only get the credit after you and your opponent have revealed however much money you're spending for the side game. So if you only have 1 credit in your credit pool, for example, and they hit the future perfect, you can't bet 2 because you don't have the 2 yet. You only get the credit after you've revealed how many credits you're spending on the side game. So keep that in mind. So that is the agenda suite, 10 agendas for 20 points. Like I said, the Gia hands, it kind of sucks that it's only 1 point. And I guess it's not very thematic with the deck. One other option for those who don't want to play Gia hands is the genetic resequencing. When you score genetic resequencing, you may place 1 agenda counter on an agenda in your score area. Obviously, you'd be using that for the Nisei Mark II agenda so that you get 2 end runs instead of 1. But again, in terms of utility, I think that the Gia hands is better because it's giving you that money. Whereas genetic resequencing, if you get in a position where it's stuck in your hand and you need to score it, you don't really have anything else to score at that time, then scoring this agenda for 1 point, you're not going to get to trigger the ability because you're not going to have anything else to put an agenda counter on. So this agenda relies on you having scored Nisei already and then scoring genetic resequencing afterwards. So for me, that wasn't really an option for this deck. So moving forward in terms of our influence, today we're going to be doing this a little bit differently. So I'm going to go with all the influence cards first, starting with Daily Business Show. The first time you draw a card each turn, draw 1 additional card. Add 1 of those drawn cards to the bottom of R&D, and that's a 2 res cost and cost 4 to trash. The reason why I put this in the deck is because it helps you see cards faster. It's supposed to be a rush deck, so you want to get your deck moving as fast as possible and kind of start scoring out agendas before the runner is able to set up. I think with the release of Breaker Bay and the Valley, we're seeing a lot slower decks, decks that require larger rigs and finding more cards on the runner side. So playing a fast deck like this is really going to help you out. And because it's not a fast advanced deck, things like Clot won't really affect you because you're not going to score an agenda the same turn that you play it. So that's Daily Business Show, which I just forgot to click the 1 copy. Keeping with the NBN influence, obviously 3 copies of Jackson Howard. Everyone knows what Jackson Howard does. Shuffle up to 3 cards from archives into R&D, or you can use him to draw 2 cards. So 3 copies of that. And then continuing with the Sansan, this is a very with the NBN, this is a very NBN heavy deck that I've decided to go with. 2 copies of Shipment from Sansan because of that utility in saving you money. It's a double, so it costs 2 clicks to play it. Place up to 2 advancement tokens on a card that can be advanced. So rather than spending your own 2 credits to advance a card, you play Shipment from Sansan, and that's $2 for free essentially. I have 2 copies of those, and then finally 2 copies of Sweeps Week, which is a fantastic card to have at this point because, as you saw with the Chaos Theory and Haley decks, people playing Public Sympathy and Game Day, or Beach Party and Game Day, they're going to have huge hand sizes, and Sweeps Week allows you to gain 1 credit for each card in the runner's grip. Regardless of if they're playing Beach Party or not, it's still usually an easy $4 to make, and there's just 2 copies of that. Continuing on, we have the last bit of influence being used on cards from HB. Keeping with the operations, I put 3 copies of Green Level Clearance, gain 3 credits and draw a card, so a net gain of 2 and a card. So you're basically just swapping Green Level Clearance for a card, or to see a card. 3 copies of that. And then finally, the last bit of influence is used on ice, and I went with Marcus 1.0, and that's 2 copies. So that's the 20 agenda points and 15 influence, and then we'll just go through the rest as it stands. So pad campaign, again, this is a deck that requires a lot of money. I decided to go with pad campaign over I always forget the name of it, sorry, I don't know why. Pad campaign over private contracts. The reason why is because private contracts costs a lot of money to res. Costs $3 to res. I know the 1 credit difference isn't really that much, but I feel like pad campaign, the runner is less likely to run and trash them because you're like, oh well, he's only gonna get 1 credit off this, I don't really need to trash it right now. Or at least that's the mentality that I have, and a few people that I play with kind of are that way as well. Whereas private contracts kind of sucks because you're clicking for that $2, wasting your own turn, slowing your own play down, and then when the runner trashes it, you're kind of screwed. Pad campaign is kind of like, you res it, if you get to keep it, great. If they trash it, whatever, that's $4 that they're losing, or at least that's the way that I see it. So 3 copies of pad campaign, which might be, you might be able to adjust it and play with things a little bit later on. I found that I haven't even played the pad campaigns, to be honest, and I've been winning games very, very quickly. And then lastly, Psychic Field, which also kicks off the Nisei division ability. If the runner exposes or accesses Psychic Field while installed, you and the runner secretly spend 0, 1, or 2 credits. Reveal spent credits. If you and the runner spent a different number of credits, do 1 net damage for each card in the runner's grip. This is kind of just to keep the runner honest. Regardless of if they actually run it when I install it, or if they see it on R&D, it just makes them have to think a little bit before running. So they're not thinking that it's just a completely honest rush deck. There's going to be traps in here. I got to kind of be wary of what I run and how I run and what click I run on. So that's why I just have the 1 copy of this, hoping that they see it on R&D. I feel like it's not going to get triggered that much when you install it, but we'll see. Depending on how you play it, if you play a lot of pad campaigns and Jackson's naked, the daily business show naked, there is a chance that they might run it, but I think that it's not really too likely. So that's it for the assets. There's just 8. Moving on to the upgrades, there's only 3, and you know who it has to be. Caprice Nisei, another side game, which we know spend the 0, 1, or 2 credits. If you and the runner spend a different amount, then the run gets ended. For those of you that are unfamiliar with this card and planning to try this deck out or play with this card, I highly suggest that you read up on the FAQ, sorry about my phone, of when this card needs to be rezzed for it to be legal. If you play it in a server by itself for whatever reason, or it's in a server and the corp trashes the ice, sorry, the runner trashes the ice somehow, and this card still isn't rezzed, when the runner runs it, there is no real window to res the card, so you wouldn't be able to play the side game. So like I said, just make sure that you go over those rules and really understand the windows of when you can res Nisei. A word to the wise, or people that don't know, if you have Nisei installed in a server and you know that you want to use it, res the outermost piece of ice and Nisei at the same time, and that will help you avoid any of those issues. Just make sure that there's a piece of ice, make sure that you have Nisei and the money to pay for it, and then res both at the same time in that same window, and that will avoid the majority of the problems and confusion with that card. So just the 3 upgrades. Moving forward, we have Celebrity Gift. This card, I like Celebrity Gifts a lot. It's a double. Reveal up to 5 cards from HQ and gain 2 credits for each card revealed. I like it a lot because it's a burst 7 credits. I don't like it because in a deck like this, and you'll see the ice later on, it's not very big ice, and it's ice that the runner is able to get around quickly once the rig is set up. And so I don't like playing Celebrity Gift for the sole reason that chances are you're going to be showing the runner your hand, and they're going to get to see exactly what ice you have and exactly what you're going to play, and it's going to give them a little hint on what kind of what kind of breakers they need to install, and I think that bothers me. So for this card, like I said, I've been using it and it's been working because the deck is still undefeated. However, I would like to replace it with Medical Research Fundraiser, even though Medical Research Fundraiser gives the runner money. So I'll show you Medical Research Fundraiser, which is here. So the runner gets 3 credits, but you make a net of 5. I still like this better because you're not giving any intel to the runner. So that will be a card that I experiment with moving forward with this deck as I do a bit more testing. So for now, I'll just leave it as a celebrity gifts for the sake of the video. Obviously, you have your hedge funds, so 3 copies of that, and that rounds out the operations. There's only 13, and they are all money-based, economy-based operations. Shimmer from Sansan, like I said, I count that as an econ card because it's saving you that $2 when you go to advance. Moving on to the ice, which is always difficult in Jinteki when you are trying to get some end the runs and you don't have any influence to spend. In terms of barriers, we've got Snowflake, which is a fantastic card. It's a 1-cost res barrier of 3 strength. Yes, that's low, but early game this is fantastic. It is a side game, the subroutine, so early game, first turn when they're face checking, this is gonna proc your Nisei division ability, and you're gonna get that credit after you spend however much money you decide to in the side game. If you and the runner spend a different amount, then the run gets ended. So if you have Snowflake out and you have Nisei scored already, for example, and you have Nisei in a server, the runner has to do a lot of dancing and bullet dodging before they can access anything, and so that's just being very annoying and forcing them to waste clicks. And that's why this is a very good card to have in the deck. It's cheap. They're wasting money on the side game if they don't have any way to break it yet, and it's making you money in the side game. And it's just another hoop to jump through for the runner. Sorry. So 4 reasons, I believe, if I counted that right. And I did it again where I didn't actually add the card. Snowflake 3. I put 1 copy of Crick because I hated running into this card. It's really not necessary. Crick is a card that you're only going to play over archives to give it that +3 strength, and it allows you to install a card from archives paying its install cost. Like I said, I only put 1 copy, and I kind of only put it in there because it is a card that has annoyed me so much. It would be great to actually get to use it to reinstall like a pad campaign or DBS or even Psychic Field if those cards are in archives face down and the runner doesn't see what you put, if it's Psychic Field anyways. Or maybe there's an agenda in there and you have a pretty good scoring remote and you want to put the agenda back, then yes. But it's not a card that's essential in this deck at all. It is one that I considered taking out and replacing with something else that is a bit more, has a bit more utility. But for now, I'll leave it and continue to test the deck and see how that goes. Moving forward is Enigma, fantastic early game ice, 2 copies. The runner loses a click if able, and it also has a end the run. And then finally 2 copies of Lotus Field, which is a 5 res, which is kind of high, but it usually pays off. 5 res cost, can't be lowered by parasites or anything like that. And it's just another hard end the run. And there are 2 copies of those. In terms of sentries, I'm not really playing around too much with the whole net damage thing and trying to play cards like Komai Inu. There are only 3 sentries and they're all guards. Guard isn't the best. 4 cost, 2 strength. It can't be bypassed, which I guess is okay. And it's just an end the run, but that's the reason why we chose it. It's a sentry and it ends the run. That's it. There's no other specialty about this card. It's a sentry and it ends the run. Sentries usually don't end the run. This is an expensive one to have, but at least it adds more ETRs to the deck. And then lastly, A card that I hate, but works well in this deck is the Chimera. So when you res Chimera, choose Sentry, Code Gate, or Barrier. Chimera gains that subtype until deresed. When a turn ends, derez Chimera. So reasons why I hate this card: 1, 0 strength. 2, because it dereses at the end of the turn and you have to pay $2 again to get it back up, so you're constantly paying for it over and over and over. But the thing that I like about this card is that if you have it in your opening hand, you're able to res it and make it whatever the runner doesn't have, or whatever you think the runner doesn't have. And even if they do have it, next turn you get to res it and make it something else. But it's a card that only really works in the first couple turns of the game, and then it becomes pretty much useless. So there are only 2 copies of that, and that gets us to the 49 cards. So as you can see, even though the ability for Nisei Division is geared towards playing the side game, it's not an ability that is really that important. I mean, it's great when you get to use it, and you will use it a lot because of the Caprice Nisei upgrade, but there's not that many cards in the deck that play off of it, because most of the side game cards aren't that great, 1, and 2, they are cards that aren't really geared towards fast wins. They're mostly geared towards doing net damage and things like that. Net damage, brain damage, giving tags, things that slow the runner down but make for a longer game. So we kind of went the route of using the side games only on cards that are absolutely necessary, and allow the corp to keep pace and try to rush the win out very quickly, instead of going for the typical Jinteki style, I guess you could call it. So in terms of strategies, the way that I usually play this deck is, like I said, I try to get an early Gia hands out if I can. If I don't need it, the first agenda that I usually score is the Nisei Mark II, because having that end the run token is very, very valuable. So I'll go for that usually as soon as I can. If I get another Nisei Mark II in my hand, I try to score that immediately as well, because then you have the 2 tokens that you're able to use, and trust me, they pay off, because then once you draw your Future Perfect, you play that down in a decently defended server with a Caprice Nisei upgrade in it. The runner runs it, say they hit Snowflake and they'll have a breaker for that, yet they have to play that side game to get through. They play the Nisei side game, say they guessed correctly, then you use your token and end the run. Then they run it again, have to go through all that, you use your token and end the run. Chances are they're not gonna be able to play all those side games and win. That's just the nature of side games. So having 2 Nisei counters is ideal. Having 1 is still good enough to get a Future Perfect out and score it, providing you have Caprice Nisei in the server already. So that's the strategy in terms of agendas. Second most important thing is making sure that you have money. There are a lot of burst econ cards in the deck. Not too much drip. Pad campaign, yes, but focus more so on the burst and having money available to res your ice, to res your Caprice Nisei, and pay for those abilities that are going to help you win the game in a very quick fashion. Like I said, it's a rush deck. You want to typically win before the runner is able to get their rig set up. If the runner gets their rig set up, it's going to be a very difficult game for you unless you have Nisei's scored, as I said. So those are the 2 most important things: getting Nisei scored and having money. And then the NAPD contracts and the Future Perfect side games, those will play themselves out and you should be fine. So that is the deck. Again, it's pretty straightforward. Like I said, I'm going to be playing some games on Octagon with it and posting them. I was initially going to put them at the end of this video, but I don't like making deck building videos that are over like 25 minutes, because then it gets a little daunting and people probably don't want to watch them. So I'm going to split it up. This is going to be the deck build video, and then I'll have links posted and videos posted of myself playing this deck both on Octagon and live, and those should be up this week. On top of that, in preparation for regionals, I'm going to be revisiting my noise deck, as that's what I'll be playing at regionals. And also we are currently working on a next design rush deck, which has been doing pretty well too. So you can look forward to those two videos as well, after, or I guess in between the uploads of the live gameplay videos of this Nisei division deck. So as always, questions, comments, feedback, whatever have you, can be emailed to myself at thronerunner@gmail.com, or you can just leave a comment on the video. Always much appreciated. Super glad to have all the feedback that I've been getting, and all the views that we've been getting with the past few videos, and I only hope to continue providing you guys with, I guess, my ideas and hearing what you guys think about it. So thanks again, and hopefully hear from you soon. Peace.